All right, everybody, welcome back to the Sarah Centrella Show. I am excited to jump into our conversation today because Danielle Amos, who's my guest today, she was connected, or we were connected by my good friend Justin Shank, which listeners of my podcast know him very well. He's been on for each season, three different times. And I was just saying before we got started, Danielle, like and I know you know him as well, so you probably have had a similar experience, but he's so great at connecting people who he knows will be like-minded, have amazing conversations. So whenever I get an intro from him, I'm like, yes. So,
So good.
and Danielle is incredible. She has built a movement, the Mystic Millionaire Movement. I can't wait to hear all about that. You are the mentor and the coach for the Mystic Millionaire, and that is your podcast as well as doing live events and all kinds of really cool stuff. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks, Sarah. Hello,
I,
everybody.
yeah, so excited to have you here. So on this show, we love to hear a little bit about your background story. Usually, people who are on here are at a place in their life where they're living their dreams or they're doing what they're passionate about. They've achieved success, but no one starts there, right? We
Yeah.
all have a backstory. We all have something that kind of catapult us or called us to what it is that we're doing now. So I would love to know, where did all this start for you?
Yeah. Thank you. Well, it's been 10 years since I've been a coach, and I can remember when before I knew what I knew, what I now know.
Right.
And I was in a corporate job that I really loved. I was in food tourism, and I was the director of product development here for an organization in Ontario. But I was like at the top. I could not go anywhere else. My boss was not leaving, and she's still not there. And there were only a few positions, and we were known and worked all over the world. And so I really wanted to do something on my own. And I don't know if any of the listeners can relate, but I had this voice that I was made for more, but there were no entrepreneurs in my family. And I didn't really know what that meant. And to me, I couldn't imagine working any harder than what I already was.
Yeah.
So I was then introduced to network marketing. And I said yes, because it seemed like a really easy way to get into entrepreneurship. And I had this vision that within like 6 months, I'd replace that corporate income and I'd be at the top of the company because I had success in corporate. Well, I joined that company. I fell flat on my face. I started thinking something was wrong with me. And I love the industry and I like couldn't crack the code. And so I did what any logical person would do, and I quit my job because I thought that I just needed more time
Uh,
to work this side hustle. And so I did that. I quit without a plan and I dove in and worked full time for my part-time job. And my results improved by 500 bucks a month.
wow. You're like,
And
really?
yeah, and at this time, my bills did
Yeah.
not go away. So I very quickly found myself in over $100,000 in debt, credit card
Yeah.
debt, using one credit card to pay off the other,
Mhm.
and freaking out. I had a really angry husband. My husband at the time was not happy with that decision, obviously, and I remember crying on my condo kitchen floor, freaking out. I used alcohol to fall asleep because I was so worried and I was biting my nails so they were bleeding. Like it was awful. I was not a good
Yeah.
mom. I had a new daughter at the time and just snapping because I had no idea what to do. And I prayed for an answer and I had this voice that said like if it's meant to be it's up to you, and I had heard that before but it really resonated. And I had been waiting for my husband to make us successful. He was an actor and I was like, you're going to walk the red carpet with him because like he's the reason. And I
Yeah.
heard that voice. I was like, oh my goodness. And I got up. I like literally felt like I was dusting myself off. And I'm like, okay, this is it. I'm doing it. And I remember making a decision. And right after that, like 2 weeks after, my mother dragged me to a seminar and I went kicking and screaming. And she said to me, Danielle, you're miserable. And this guy is reading from the book Think and Grow Rich. And I'm just going to grab it here because I have
Yes, I
it.
love that book.
Yeah. And she's like, come. And I said, Mom, I've read this book. I know what he's going to say. And she's like, just come. And so I went, and it was Bob Proctor on stage in front of probably 100 people. And I sat at the back of the room with my arms crossed, thinking I knew what he was going to say. And he said one thing. He's like, your way's not working. And he was talking to the group, but he said, basically, your results always tell the truth. And he said, unless you're getting the results you want, you don't fully understand how it works. And I was like, what? Wait a minute. The reason I'm not getting my results is because my husband doesn't believe in me, the
Right.
economy, la, 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 la. And he asked everyone to take responsibility. And he said it's an inside out job. And I was like, what? Like what does that even mean?
Right.
And I started listening. I borrowed 3 credit cards to pay for the deposit of his course. I jumped in and vowed. I was like, this is it. I vowed to be so coachable. Within 6 months, I tripled my income. I started winning awards with a company that I was with. It was like a magic sauce. And what I did was change my mindset, my self-image, the way that I was speaking to myself, and it felt easy.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
so
and
I went from,
aligned. Like that
yeah,
alignment is so much easier than the struggle, right?
oh my gosh, and the hustle.
Mm-hmm.
And so after that, I became a coach. Like that December, when I tripled my income, I certified myself, went back and invested in the Proctor Gallagher Institute, and now have been showing other women how to do the same. And we're called the Mystic Millionaires because I had my first $100,000 month, multi-million-dollar company now. And though I didn't want to make it about me, I'm like, if it was so easy, like for me, I'm like, this other women need to know this because they're hustling like I was, they're struggling like I was, and it doesn't have to be that way. And so
Yeah.
we've had dozens of millionaires now graduate from our society, and it's about bringing this energetics, the inside world together, yes, with action and strategy, but it's like more than we've been taught in school.
Oh, I love that so much. I relate to so much of it as well. My story is kind of similar. It started with that rock bottom moment where I was like, something has got to change. I definitely played a hand in where my life is at right now. So if that's true, then how do I play a hand in changing it
Love it.
and starting to create something that really matters for me in the life that I want? And I love that you were able to be coachable, to take what you were learning and immediately apply that into your life, which I think is the piece that many people don't do or don't really know how to do.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about like what that was like in the beginning when you're really applying what you're learning in the book and in his program and all of those things, like how you translated that into your daily habits, into your practice, and um, what was that like in the beginning to really be like, hey, I'm being all in on I'm making some big changes in my life.
Yeah, I love that question because Sarah, you're absolutely right. Like so many people have read Think and Grow Rich, like all the books.
Yep.
And that was me. I mean, I had been in network marketing then for a few years. We were taught to read all the books. I wasn't new to any of this. In fact, at like 17, I started meditating. So, but here's the thing, what I quickly noticed is I had the knowledge, but to your point, it wasn't applied knowledge.
Right.
And so I had to like really question that. Like,
Yeah.
why can I like regurgitate all this and no change?
Mm-hmm.
And so it is that application. And I think it's missing in a lot of communities. And,
Yes.
um,
100%.
and so my coach through the program, he was like, Danielle, you're saying one thing and doing another. And so we have a word for that in Bob's world. It's called praxis, Praxis. And it's where a praxis means that your beliefs are integrated with your behavior. So I had a new set of beliefs that I thought, like consciously, I could
Right.
say them, like
Yeah.
about money, about think and grow rich, about all the things that you teach in your book as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
I had that consciously, but I wasn't operating in a way
Right.
that show that I believe that. And so I got called out and I didn't know what it meant. I was like, well, how do I do this? And
Yeah.
so luckily enough, I asked really good questions and I apply like I really thought, which I think is also
Yeah.
missing with a lot of people.
Yes.
Um,
Be a critical thinker.
yeah, like what does this actually look like to
Yeah.
walk? and be an embodiment of this, if I really believe that, would I say that? If I really believe this, would I be acting like that? And a lot of it for me came with money. And that's
Yeah.
why I'm so passionate about money. And we use it every day. So it was very easy to practice. I was like, if I really believed that I can think and grow rich, why am I picking a chicken for lunch at a restaurant just to save $2 when I
Right.
really want the
Yeah.
steak?
Yeah. Making decisions based on fear, based on limitation, based
Correct.
on lack. So no matter what it is that I'm saying, the belief system is guiding all the decisions. It's also guiding like my aura, my energy, what people are reading, the
Totally.
assessments they're making about me, how I'm showing up, just all of
Yeah.
it.
So in the beginning, to answer your question, it wasn't easy. It was like looking in a mirror, and that can be very confronting. And I learned to become objective. And I thought, you know what? I can't make myself wrong because I wasn't taught this, and either were many of the,
Yeah.
like most of us. And instead, notice. And when I notice, course correct. And I asked a lot of people to keep me accountable. And then when I started getting success, I started working directly with Bob Proctor, and I had the chance to pick his brain. I wanted to be like, how does one actually apply this? And to be honest, Sarah, this is a big part of the work, like, and what we do in our community, because we notice the embodiment and the accountability are missing.
Yes.
So I love that you asked that question.
Oh my
It's
gosh, me too. And my books, think it is the one that just came out, and so I loved when you were talking about mindset. I mean, that's
yeah.
that is my language all day. So is manifesting, because to me, to actually practice mindset work is so different than knowing, hey, my thoughts predict my reality, or all the other like fucking quotes that
Yeah.
exist, right? But what does that mean for me on a daily basis, on a day where I got like four bills I wasn't expecting and I'm like, oh fuck, what do I do now? Right? Like, how do I turn those voices in that moment so that I am staying aligned with the beliefs that I'm trying to lay down and change and remove the limiting beliefs? And so I'm always, if my listeners know, talking about the work, talking about like, and in every one of my books, after each chapter, there's homework assignment. So like that is your opportunity to customize what you just learned and put it into play in your own life. And without that, what is the point? Like,
Yeah.
stop listening to podcasts, stop reading books, like stop giving a fuck about any of it. Because if you're not going to actually like take a moment and be like, what does this mean to me? What is going on in my belief system? What is going on in how I'm showing up? Like, what isn't aligning? Where is that showing up? And just like you said, be a critical thinker. It's harder than it sounds, quite honestly, and
Totally.
that's why I put the journal prompts in every single chapter, because a lot of people don't know how to ask those questions of themselves and don't know how to like uncover those layers to even know what needs fixing or what needs to change. Let's talk about mindset first, and then there's so much I want to jump into. But what role has mindset played for you? Like actually really being consciously aware of your thoughts, consciously aware of what wasn't serving you, and then I'd love to know kind of what your process was for changing those.
Yeah.
Changing that.
Well, first of all, I want to say, for me, mindset is more like, I think there's some misunderstanding about what mindset is out there, because I hear people say, well, it's not all about the mindset. Like, I truly believe it is. I think
A
success is
thousand
95,
percent.
yeah, 95% mindset, 5% of
Yes.
your action. And I think people that say it's like, oh, well, it's not all about the mindset, I think they don't understand really what mindset is. They think it's a conscious thought, and
Right.
it's actually not. Mindset it starts with, yes, conscious thoughts, but it's also your subconscious thoughts. And those thoughts lead to feeling, which is your vibration, which actually is what like gets you to act. So
Right.
mindset, to the person that's unaware, thinks it's this thought, like only a thought, like,
Yeah.
what am I having for dinner? It is not that. It's an energy that exists on all the planes in which you exist as a human being, a spiritual being in this human body. The spiritual plane, the thought, thinking or intellectual plane, and emotional plane are together there. And then the physical plane, it actually impacts all of it. So I just wanted to set that straight, because sometimes we don't really understand what mindset is, and it is all of that. on all three levels. And you might say, well, how's action mindset? Well, actually, you wouldn't be acting that way if it wasn't the first
Thank
starting
you.
point is the mind. Yeah. So like,
Literally every single thing you do in a
yeah,
day and in your entire life starts with a thought. It's the thought,
totally.
should I go to the gym? It's the
Yeah.
thought, should I call that person back and start, like foster the relationship? Like there is nothing that you do at all that isn't driven by a thought. So
Yeah.
if you're able to control those thoughts, implant the ones that are actually going to create results you want, like it literally changes every single aspect of your life.
Yeah.
Everything.
So when you ask me that, I'm like, wait a minute, there like it is everything.
Right.
Everything. And I love that we're on the same page for that. And um, in the beginning, it can feel like you're micromanaging your mind, and you kind
Mhm.
of are.
Yeah.
But then when you understand how the mind works and that we've been programmed and our subconscious mind's been programmed, and I know you know all
Yeah.
about this. Like once you understand that and you're like, oh, okay, I'm programmed for my current results. And in order for me to change my results, I've got to change my programming. So in the beginning, yes, I'm going to be consciously aware of what's going on there and like change them consciously. And that takes a whole lot of energy and it's
It
super
does.
tiring.
Yep.
And you got to be willing to do it. And at the same time, you're reprogramming your subconscious mind. So now your habitual thoughts are now in alignment with the person that you are becoming and your goals. And once you do that, you got like a whole lot more freedom because your conscious mind can relax because your subconscious mind is more in harmony with the results you
Yeah,
want.
it's finally programmed,
Yeah.
right? And it isn't fighting what you're doing on a conscious level. It's
Yeah.
actually aligned. And to your point, like I think it's such a good point to reiterate the fact that your thoughts are the thing that does drive your action,
Yeah.
right? And so and 100% is the thing that is affecting your energy. And a lot of people, I don't think really understand it. I didn't understand energy when I first started all this. But I knew I could tell when something was out of alignment or off, right? And my whole thing was like, all right, well, let me figure out what that is because I know where I want to go. I know what I'm focusing on and I know the work that I'm putting in. But like you said, if the results aren't lining up, something
Mhm.
isn't there. So what do I need to do to find out what are those beliefs and
Yeah.
why are they not serving me? And let's do that work. And I had a client once say when I was teaching some of the tools for mindset training, he was like, "Oh my God!" And then this was someone who knew nothing about personal development. This was his first exposure to any of this stuff. And I was like, the first 2 weeks are gonna be rough. Like once you notice what you're thinking, it's a rough ride for a good 2 weeks. And he was like, you're not kidding. He's like, it felt like warfare. It felt
Yeah.
like 24/7 warfare. And I was like, yeah, because most of the time we have no idea what's going on in our head, but it is the thing that's creating every single piece of our reality. And it's also stacking the deck for the future reality. So it's like, as soon as you're aware of that, you're like, whoa, I had no idea I was this negative, or I had no idea I was speaking so much, lack or doubt into my life. And no wonder, it is kind of mind blowing. But the
Yeah.
other thing that you talk a lot about, and I'm really fascinated with, and have been on my own journey for, is upgrading your image. Talk
Mm.
to talk to us about what you mean by that.
Yeah. Well,
Your
inside your
self-image.
yeah, your self-image, inside your subconscious mind, you have a self-image, and some people call it identity, and it's a little different. I'll define both. Your self-image is the way you view yourself and the way you perceive others to view you. And
Mm,
it includes you've got the image inside, and then you've got an outer self image that you portray to the world, the way that you meet and greet people, dress, all that kind of stuff. An identity is like a hat that you wear. So I have an identity as a CEO, I'm a mom, I'm a daughter, and inside each of those identities, we have self images. So the way that I perceive myself as a mom and the way that I believe others perceive me as a mom, for example. And so that self-image is really layered. It's like it involves all three layers, like your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. So
yeah.
how you show up. And so what I learned, and I didn't realize, because like you hear from people all the time, it's just like, it's just the way I am.
Hmm.
And so I didn't realize that we actually had the power to create our own
Yeah.
self-image. And when I learned that, I was like, oh my goodness, like I can actually decide who
I
I'm
can pick
being.
and choose. I can like cherry pick who I want to be. Like,
Yeah.
this is crazy.
Yeah. And so I went to town. I was like, what? This is like amazing. And I wrote 17 pages to create a self-image and directed exactly. My mentor Bob helped and exactly how he teaches. And basically it's that you get to write a character script, just like you would if you were in high
Yeah.
school and writing a character for a movie. And think about that. Like, what are my thoughts? If I could choose any thoughts, like if I had this magic wand, how do I feel? What do I look like? How do I dress? How do I speak? And so I wrote all of that out and I wrote it about each of my identities. So as a
Love
mom,
that.
as a
Love
CEO.
that.
And then the next step is to actually embody that new character and practice being her.
Mm,
And I did that and it didn't take very long. And as I was being this new version of me, the results and the people and the opportunities that got attracted to me out of the blue, it felt like
yeah.
were incredible. And so much so that Bob had me on stage and he's like, Danielle, what did you do? Like, you've transformed. It's been 90 days approximately since we last saw you, and you look completely different. Your posture's different. How you speak is different. I said, well, I just did what you said. I wrote her and I became her. And so then that became my quote. And
I
it's
love
on in
that.
my other office, in my other house, it's on the wall. And it's what I became known for is self-image because it completely changed my life. Now, I want to say something. In the beginning, it felt like I was creating that character. And that's how I explain it to my clients. I'm like, you're going to write and you can do some research, like best practices, like who are other women that you admire. And I believe admires projection. So they're actually
Yeah.
showing you what's within you. But what I've come to realize that is that I don't think you're actually creating. I think you're remembering who you truly are. And I think it's a
Mm.
process of letting go who you believe you're not
Oh,
in the
yeah.
remembrance in this creation. But because we love applicable tools, like let's think about it as creation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Can you give us an example of how you embodied it? I think that's another place where people get stuck, right? They're like, yeah, that kind of makes sense, but what do I actually do? I can write the script, I can visualize this woman, but
Mm.
what do I do tomorrow? Like,
Yeah.
what does embodiment even look like? Where do I start?
Yeah, what a great question. So I thought of real life examples where I was interacting with people. And I started with areas of my life that I wasn't happy with how I was showing up so that it was
Mm,
easy to improve. Okay. So, for example, I didn't like how I was reacting to my daughter. She was young at the time, and if she didn't clean her room or do something I said, I found myself raising my voice and snapping, and I didn't like that. And so, in my self image as a mother, I wrote about the scenario. So, Eloise doesn't clean her room. And what's normal is that I would snap. How, if I could show up anyway as the best version of myself as a mother, what would I be thinking about her as she didn't listen? How would I be feeling? And then most importantly, what would I be saying? And so I actually wrote it out in advance so that I could make an advanced decision. So the next time that happened, I had the tools. I already visualized
yeah.
myself responding differently. And I wasn't perfect. There were times where I still reacted, and though I asked my daughter to keep me accountable. And so I told her and I showed her how I'm committed to responding. And anytime, and she still uses this word to this day, anytime that I don't show up that way, she says lollipop. She doesn't have to say anything else. Lollipop. And
And you're
I'm
like,
like,
oh, check.
and so then I
Check.
asked for a do-over. I'm like, Elle,
Yeah.
can you do that again? And I'm committed. And so it is actually through practice. And you are given so many opportunities every single day to show up the best version of yourself. And it is just about practice. And that's what embodiment is. You're not going to be perfect. And it's a commitment and a decision, moment to moment to moment, to become this next level version of you. And before you know it, one day you're going to wake up and your whole world has changed because you've embodied it so much. It's now your new normal, and everything in your physical world has adapted to this way of
Mm.
being.
Ooh, I love that so much. I went through something kind of similar at the start of this year. I've been feeling for the last couple years that I was right like on this cusp of the next version of myself, if that makes sense, or like that next level. And I felt it in my aura, just in everything for the last couple of years. And so I really wanted to intentionally look at like, okay, what is the identity that I'm letting go of? Because I have to kind of first, at least I felt like I had to kind of first let go of the version of myself that I was in order to be able to really fully embody. Because the embodiment was where I was struggling for those 3 years. It was like, I'm so clear on the vision. I'm so clear on what she looks like. Like, where's the disconnect happening? And on the first of the year, I went out to the coast. I have a manifesting ritual I do every year. And this year I did it in that way of like letting go of my old identity. And for me, I grew up really poor. So money was definitely a big like mental block for me for sure. I'd manifested a bunch of abundance, but I still knew I had blocks that was blocking more, it was blocking more success in my business and things like that. And so I had to really look at like that identity for me. It was so attached to hustle. I mean, that's the name of my first book, Hustle, Believe, Receive. Like, I was always very proud of the fact that I could take nothing and turn it into something. Like, I was a hustler, you know? And to be able to come to this place where I was like, that served me so well. I'm so thankful for that. Like,
Yeah,
I would not be here without it, but I have to be okay to let it go now so that I can transition into this next version of me who is not a hustler. It doesn't
yeah,
have to
that's
hustle, right?
beautiful.
Who it
Yeah,
comes to me and she shows up with grace. She doesn't have to show up in that same energy. And it was it was a lot. It was so powerful for me. And I think it was timing wise with letting go the snake year and all of that. It was kind of like
Mhm.
shed, shed, shed. But I really love that. I wish I had known more about identity specifically and kind of how to shift that self-image piece because I think it really is it's like putting on an upgrade or like giving yourself the 2.0 version and being like, okay, I'm
Totally.
ready to upgrade now. How do you, I guess, continue that process so that you don't because it's at some point, like you said, you're going to be an embodiment of everything you wrote down those 17 pages. But then we don't want to plateau, right? Or kind of like stall
Yeah.
out. How do you kind of keep that evergreen or keep that growing?
Yeah, I love that question. First of all, I want to acknowledge the work that you did. That's huge to be willing to take yourself through that. And a lot of people aren't willing to do that because they are so attached to what they built in that certain way. And you're right, it served you and it got you so far. And it is a grieve, like you will grieve.
It was hard. It was so
Yeah.
hard to let go of because it was something that I had so branded in my mind. Well, and it had been very positive for me. It was the fuel or the engine that had gotten me where I was. But I think to understand that it doesn't always have to be, you know, and that
Yeah.
can you can outgrow those different phases of yourself, and you want to. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you
I
stay
do
stuck
want
in the
to.
same cycle, you know.
Yeah, and there's a glass ceiling, especially with the hustle. We
Hmm.
can only hustle so long,
Yeah,
and there is, yeah, a new way. Um, and you could say better. I love the word better.
yeah.
And that's the point. So I believe that we are constantly growing and that there's a universal law that you're either growing or dying. You cannot stay the same. And so, in order to continue to grow, which I believe is the definition of success, by the way, I think I'm successful as long as I'm growing and moving into more or better. Now, that word better doesn't mean that the old version of me was wrong. It's not right and wrong, it's better. And so it's important, and this goes against what I was taught. I can hear my grandmother's voice actually saying, "Can't you be happy with what you got? Can't you
I
be
was just gonna
satisfied with what
say,
you got?"
yeah,
Yeah. So it goes against what we're taught. It might even make you feel greedy. And
hmm,
here it's not true. It's just a paradigm. It's a societal belief I believe, help keep people small.
yeah, I agree.
So it's important that you desire. And so I move through life and purposely put myself in situations where I'm being stretched in more luxurious places around people that are earning more than me so that I can get a taste of where I'm not yet. And so I allow life to show me. Like I thought I was at this beautiful house and it was like on the water and I'm like, wow, that's really nice. And the neighbor invited us over to their house and it was slightly bigger. So I was at a friend's house and they had like an elevator. I had no idea people had elevators in their house.
Right.
Like, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then I was just in San Diego and that house had like a whole inside, like cars parked inside their house with like a wheelie thing where they like drove it out and they showed off their cars as if they were sofas. It was fascinating to me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like
There's levels. There's always levels of growth, right?
there's always more. And here's the thing, you might not be into the fancy Gucci handbag. But for you, it might be donating to a children's shelter somewhere, or for someone else, it's animals. And you pick whatever lights you up. And there's more for that. There's more that you can donate. There are, and if it's Gucci purses, there's another Gucci purse. Like there's nothing right or wrong. You get to have it all and you get to do both. You get to
Yeah,
donate. And so I think constantly adding to that desires list is very important. I believe that you're given desires by God, by your higher self, because it's by going after those desires that you're going to grow into the next level version of you. So, what if desires are good? They're not greedy,
right,
and you continue to go for it. And then when you are feeling like you are sort of like plateauing or playing it safe, because we all do it, it's like we're like go, go, and then we're like
yeah,
enjoying be present to it and go, what else on my list am I going for? Like, what's next? And the faster you're saying what's next, not because something's missing from that right now, you're
right,
totally good. You're grateful for what you have, but you're never satisfied.
right. Because you're always growing.
You're
You
always
don't want
growing.
to stay stagnant. You don't want
Yeah.
to plateau out.
Yeah.
And I always tell everyone, like, I want to be growing, evolving, changing, creating something new till my last breath, like, period. I don't care
Yeah.
if I'm like 100 years old. It's
And so get
always,
excited
yeah,
about the growth. Like don't see it as hard work. Don't see it as like healing or fixing. It is literally because that's what's lighting you up. If you think about the times in your life when you're most lit up for people, the depressed people are people that don't have that aren't going after something. So that's
right.
a Harvard study shows that the happiest people are those who are actually going for something.
Absolutely.
Change,
Yep.
then we're programmed to think change is hard or difficult or it's backwards. We're
Yeah,
taught
to
the
me, change
opposite.
is exciting. Like
Yeah.
that's what keeps life interesting. Like when I don't have some version of change in at least one area of my life, I'm bored.
Mhm.
And I am my worst self if I'm bored. That is not a place I want to be. I want to constantly be putting effort into something because that's where I get reward. That's where I
Yeah.
get like creative and endorphins and just like all the good things.
And so what I play with inside my own mind and like I journal a lot about is like, okay, am I present to what is now? Am I super grateful for what is? And I'm not doing it because I think something's wrong here or trying to
Right.
fix. Because I think it can be a slippery slope if the reason more is to fill gaps.
Right.
So it's like, can you cultivate that happiness, joy, peace, gratitude from within? Like nothing more is needed. It's that
Yeah.
you desire it just because you get to, and we
Yeah.
get to have it all. So
Yeah.
I like, for all the listeners, I think really thinking about that because if you're doing it to fill a hole, you're always going to have the hole.
1000%. And I think it's really important also to remember that by you having more, you're not taking food off someone else's plate.
Yeah.
In fact, the opposite is true. When you have more to give, you have more to bless, you have more freedom, more flexibility. You can treat your friends and family. Like there's so much more that you can do with that that is not taking from anyone else. It
Yeah.
isn't like one or the other. It's
Totally.
to me that expansion is for everybody. And when you
I love
expand, you're
that.
expanding everybody.
Yeah, and I believe that money is a magnifier. So, like I said before, it's going to magnify the things that you already love. So, if you love treating your family, you're going to treat them in bigger ways. If you love animals, you're going to donate to animal shelters in bigger ways. And so, allowing that money to for you to do more good in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about making space for abundance? How do we do that? How do we make space for abundance?
Well, I think understanding all those places where you have, excuse me, just a sec.
Yeah, go for it.
So making space for abundance is really about noticing where you are in lack and limitation and to your point earlier, like letting that go, like knowing that way of thinking doesn't serve you. And I like to share with my clients and really think about it for myself is my natural state is abundance and prosperity, just like my natural state as a human is health. And the way I prove that to myself, because I think we always like we have to believe it to be our truth. I think about when I get a paper cut on my finger. When I have a paper cut on my finger, I don't have to do anything for it to heal. It just returns to my natural state, which is health. Now, that, just like that paper cut, same is true for any illness in our body.
Mm, I love that.
Yeah. So, as well as abundance. So,
Yeah.
our natural state is abundance. So, I don't need to tell my body to be abundant. It just naturally is. And so, what do I need to do is let go of the limitation, let go of the fear, let go of the negative programming, if we can call it negative, because I think that's the easiest way to understand it. Let go of it and then return back to this natural way of being, which is to receive all that there is. And naturally in the universe, there's so much abundance. Like I'm looking at my window right now. Right now, there's an abundance of snow because I'm in Canada. And though, if it was like summer, there'd be natural, like abundance of leaves and birds. You know,
Right.
it's natural for it, for us to be in abundance.
I love that thinking about it as abundance is my set point.
Yeah.
Like that's the point I come back to. We talk a lot about if your subconscious beliefs aren't, if you don't work on your subconscious beliefs, all the conscious work that you do will keep like coming back to the set point of
Yeah.
your subconscious beliefs because they are the set point. It's kind of like if you're trying to lose weight, you always wind up at the same weight that you've been at forever or whatever. It keeps like finding that weight again.
Yep.
And I love the idea of abundance as my set point. Like that's
Yeah.
beautiful. I think that's super powerful.
And I think it takes something for most people to really believe that and understand
For
it.
sure.
And though that's why I bring in the paper cut idea because it's really easy to understand. Like I can get behind that. Okay, if
Yeah.
it's the same for abundance, what does that actually mean and look like for myself?
Right. Are there any things that you do in the moments where lack, doubt, fear, whatever is triggered, it comes back and is like, oh, this is a moment where maybe we should hunker down or have fear or have some of those old beliefs that we've had before, um, that you can do in that moment to help you get back to your abundance, to let that go, first of all, and then to mentally and energetically get back to the abundance set point.
Yeah, well, I mean, money, we use it every day, lots of different
Yeah.
times. So it's such a great teacher. And one of the reasons why I love it. And it happens to me now, and I've been in 10 years of this work, multi-millions of dollars through my business, and it's still there. So I don't know that it goes away. And so for me, it's just on a different level, to be honest.
Yeah.
And um, I am grateful when it comes, and because it is my opportunity to practice at the next level. And
Mm,
what's interesting is that we want to be aware of the law of opposites because anytime when you put a goal or set a vision for more, let's use money. So let's say it might be turning your yearly income into your monthly, and let's say the most you've earned is 100,000. And for those listeners, what if that was a monthly? So if you got behind that and you said, okay, $100,000 a month, I've never done this before, this sounds crazy. The moment you do that and you anchor in and you start feeling that vision, and this it's the same for me. So I'm doing the same work, just
yeah.
a different number. And the universe doesn't know the difference between the numbers, by the way. So I anchor in that amount. And then in that moment, the universe will bring me something actually in my physical reality or a perceived something so that I can feel lack.
Mm,
Because if I'm going to hold $100,000 months, I've got to know what it feels like to hold minus 100,000. And
Right.
so the law of opposites comes in to provide context to feel the lack at that level so that I can actually hold the abundance and prosperity at that level. And so I'm dealing with this right now because I'm just like you,
Yeah.
leveling up. And because of that, I've had some very real, more than I earned in a year, a bill for a week's worth of work from my lawyer.
Yeah.
And I have a
It brings
decision.
up all the feelings, right?
Right. And so in that moment, I have a decision. Am I going to react going, "Oh my
Mhm.
gosh, like that's a $48,000 bill."
Yeah.
Like, or do I use my tools and the truth about money and I decide? So it's my moment to practice. So yeah, I feel it too. I'm like, "Oh," and I actually
Mhm.
I freaked out for a minute. My daughter was in the car and I'm like, and she's
Yeah.
like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Okay." And I pause and I'm
Yeah.
like,
Good.
"Okay, this is sticky for me."
Yes.
And like, I think it would be for anyone.
Yep.
And so then I'm like, okay, so what are the truths? What are the truths?
Yep.
Prosperity is my natural state. Abundance is my natural state. If I really believe in what I teach, that this is what if I made this 48,000 feel like 4,800
Right.
or 480? What if my perception, if I can change my goal achieved self, as I'm earning $1 million a month through my business, it sees this bill of 48,000 as small. Can
Right.
I start to see that? And I play with it and I use my visualization. And to be honest, I write because the writing causes thinking, and that helps me manage my monkey brain going down to fear, doubt, worry, and all anxiety. Instead, when I'm writing, when you write, you can only think one thought at a time. So
Mhm.
that writing allows me to stay in the truth. And I write and write and write until I regulate my nervous system. I'm going to be breathing, noticing what's happening. And then it's my job to respond to that email from the perspective of my goal achieved self rather than react and
Yep.
deal with it. And that's
Yeah.
what I do.
I love that so much. I think there's so much gold in what you just said because we do get tested. I have definitely noticed I've been teaching this, practicing it. It's what I live, first of all. That's how I figured any of this out was because it's what I was living. So it's
Yeah.
definitely what I live every day. But I have definitely noticed that there are test points. I kind of feel like the universe is, you put out a new dream, you put out the vision, or the next version of who you want to be, whatever. And it will give you some nice wins. So it's like, I see you, does this feel good? Is this what you like? And you're like, yes, it's great. And then you'll like get a test. And to me, that's always like, hey, I just want to make sure, are you serious? Or are you going back?
Yeah.
It's kind of like calling your bluff a little bit.
Mhm.
And so I always tell everyone, which is what I do too. I have to like, you take that hit, you like, and I might have a day where I'm just like feeling all the feels, like letting whatever out needs to come out. And then the next day I'm waking up and I'm going, all right, now that's my cue to double down. I'm
Yeah.
doubling down because I know that it will get me through that much faster and is going to bring a win right behind it, almost as like the validation of like, all right, good job. I saw you. Like you didn't cave, you didn't go back, you didn't reverse course.
Yeah.
You held strong, and that always gives me a lot of courage, I guess, or confidence in the moments when you get those hits, because those hits are never going to stop coming. That's
No.
part of being
And you
alive.
don't want them to.
That's part of being alive, right? Like
Yeah.
that, we have to learn how to navigate stuff all the time. And I think you can definitely get better at navigating it for sure and get to the place, those things I used to live in that space. I'll be totally honest. Like that was my
Yeah.
normal, before I learned all this stuff, I was negative and in doubt and lack 24/7. That was my resting state. So to teach myself and train myself out of that and to now be at a place where like, I'll take the day, and sometimes I don't even need the day,
Yeah.
like that's what we're looking. We're just looking for growth. We're looking
Well,
for improvement.
and I think that this is the work is practicing to respond differently.
Yes.
So it's our willingness. It's it's to your point, like these things are going to come and we want them to because it's what's causing the most amount of growth. But we've got to be willing to lean in and operate in a different way than what we had before. And that's the work.
Yeah.
It's
And
the
that's why
work.
it's so important to do things like write out what that
Yeah.
identity is,
Yeah.
because if you don't do that, you will not know when that kind of fork in the road is there to make a new decision, right? You're just going to operate on autopilot without even understanding, whoa, that was a decision point that I totally missed. But if you have done the work and you've written out, hey, this is who I want to be, this is the life that I want, and you've spent the time visualizing it, and to your point, I make all my clients write everything by hand. And I initially get pushback almost every single time. No one wants to do it, right? They're like, this is, I don't even know if I can write by hand anymore. Yes, you can. But it just activates a completely different part of your brain. And so you're actually able to access those deep questions for yourself because it forces the thinking, it forces like complete focus. But it's so, so important because the time that you've spent on doing that dedicated time, whether it was 10 minutes to journal or whatever, it is the thing that like pops up and reminds you in those decision point moments to be like, oh shit, this is one of those moments. Okay, how should I be showing up right now? How did I say I was going to show up right now? Versus just autopiloting for the rest of my life,
Yeah, it's powerful. I call it advanced decision making because I've written it out.
Mhm.
There is no guessing. So it's easier for me to then embody that scene in my movie because I've rehearsed it on paper and in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the parts where it's all the good stuff when you manifest and you've rehearsed it in your mind, there's nothing better than that. It almost is like a deja vu moment where
Mm.
you're like, is this the real version or is this the dream? It's the
Yeah.
coolest like feeling ever.
Yeah, it's like I've seen this, I've felt this so many times. And so then by the time it comes into your physical reality, it just feels so normal.
Natural. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Natural is a good word.
It is the best feeling ever. I always tell people I've never done drugs, but I would be willing to bet that this is a better high.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because like once you start manifesting, you're like, oh my God, that started as a thought, and now
Mhm.
this is an actual thing that I'm doing, or a moment that I'm in, or something that I've always wanted that now I have. You're just like,
And
this is
and here's the
insane.
thing. Yeah, and we're manifesting all day long. So your
Mhm.
life right now was once just a dream. And people might
Yep,
hear that and go, "Well, wait a minute. I didn't want this." But you did because
you
you
created
manifested
it.
it.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like I love what you said at the very beginning of this. It's like you realize that you actually have control and that
Yeah.
you can create it because you're creating it anyway. So I like to look around and go, "Oh my gosh, like this was all just a thought in my mind at one point." Wow,
Yeah.
how cool.
Yeah, that's what I tell everyone. I'm like, and I get so fired up about it because I'm like, why doesn't the entire world want to know this?
I
Like,
know.
this is the freaking key to life.
Yeah.
It is, pretty simple by the time you strip out all the other stuff. It's pretty simple. Like, what I'm thinking about, what I'm focusing on, what I'm obsessing about, what I'm daydreaming about is actively creating a future reality for me. So, like, why wouldn't I fucking want to, like, be present for
Control
that?
that.
Like,
Yeah.
hello.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, there's nothing woo-woo about it because regardless of if you believe it or not, all you have to do is trace back in your own life and you'll
Totally.
be able to connect the dots and go, oh shit, I guess I can't ignore this anymore. It's worked in a negative and a positive in my past, you know?
Yeah. And I would say like test it, like allow it to prove you right.
Yeah,
Like
thousand
allow it to
percent.
prove itself to you and have fun with it. I mean, like it's a game
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, that's exactly how I started with all this. I started as a total, honestly, critic of the idea, but I was in such a
Mm.
rock bottom phase of my life that I thought I have nothing to lose. So if there's a 1% chance that any of this stuff makes my life 1% better, it's better than where I was at. And so
Love
I
that.
was very consciously test proving it. And so
Mm.
then when it would work, I would be like, oh shit. Like,
Why didn't someone tell me this sooner?
and then I was like, I wonder if I can just copy and paste to the next thing. And
Yeah.
yes, you can. Like,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
amazing.
that
And
clarity is
there's
so key.
and what's so cool about that story, Sarah, is like no one can take that knowing away from you
Yeah,
because you've experienced it. So it's no longer a conscious knowing that you read in the book. You've actually like
it's your
n-
own proof point.
someone can say whatever they want to you and be like, okay, well, whatever. Like Bob Proctor used to say from stage, he would get criticized that he was pretending
Mm,
and they would because he was on a lot of talk shows and now we're
right.
talking the 70s, right? And they would make fun of him and they're
Yeah.
like, you're literally telling people to pretend. He's like, fair enough. Well,
Yeah.
I pretended myself to my first million.
Exactly. Well, and now it's been proven, right, with
Right.
neuroscience. Like if you can tell yourself a lie 200 times, and by the 201th time, you would go to war that that's the truth, right?
Defending
Because
it.
it's
Yeah.
your brain is that elastic. Like
Yeah.
you can rewrite it with any story that you want. So I'm always like, why wouldn't you want to put in everything you want? Like plug it in, and then life gets a lot more exciting and a lot more fun.
Yeah. And
uh,
there's no limit.
no, no, literally dream huge. I'm always so adamant about go to the biggest version of whatever it is. And then once you've kind of exhausted that vision, think about that exact same thing on a different day or in a
Yeah.
different moment or in a different like movie scene almost. And then you have expansion and then you're like it's
Love
so
that.
fun to
Yeah.
create. Oh my gosh, I could talk about this all day.
Yeah, me too. We now know why Justin got us
I know.
together.
Justin's like, oh my God, you guys just go for
Yeah.
it. I love this. What are you doing now? What is the big thing that you're working on right now that everyone can learn from you on all this?
Well, I've created an event and it's happening April 15th here just outside of Toronto. And it's
I
like
love
full
that.
on manifestation because I can see it in my mind.
Yep.
And my team's like, you are insane.
Yep.
And I'm like, but I can see it, so I know it's coming together. And we're at this place where it's like, wow, what have we committed to? So it's
Right.
called Momentum, and it's a self-image edition. And I'm so passionate about identity and self-image upgrade. And the idea is that the women come in one version of themselves and they leave their next level
Love
self-image
that. Love
embodied.
that.
And
Yeah.
how we'll fulfill on that promise is we've got 3 floors and we're taking over a renovated old spice factory. It's now a wedding venue, but it's 3 floors. We are
So cool.
fulfilling. Yeah. So the top floor is a normal summit. So where we have speakers on stage sharing their story, sharing their tools, and there'll be either panels or interview style or like very fast TED
Yeah.
talk about their genius. The second floor is all about experiences and activation. So this is where the women will go in one-on-one or small groups with experts to help them transform their self-image. So there's
Love that.
makeup artists actually doing like eyes,
Yeah.
hair, stylists, photographers showing you how to pose,
Love
your
it.
body image, all that kind of stuff. There's someone helping you regulate your nervous system, mirror work, all the things on that floor. The first floor is collaboration over competition. What I've
Mm.
noticed that we really get to heal as women is coming together and leaving events like this where you actually know everybody and you leave with business partnerships. So if your goal is more visibility, there's a wall of people that have podcasts that are looking for guests. You can do swaps. If it's that you want to learn more about finances or find an accountability partner, like everyone in that room will get their ask delivered.
Love that.
And we've got breakouts, masterminds, and all of that. That's that floor. It's all happening in one day, and then we're finishing with like an embodiment dance party. And there's
Yes. I love
200
it.
women. They're coming from all over the world: Hawaii,
Oh my God, I love
UK,
it.
New
It's
York,
amazing.
LA, Toronto. Like it's amazing. So if we still have
Congratulations.
tickets, yeah.
Congratulations. I know what, and I'll put the link here in the show notes
Thank you.
for the tickets and for the event. I know what it's like to throw a big women's event like that, and it's a lot. It takes a lot of passion, it takes a lot of dedication to the vision. But when it comes together, there's nothing as magical as being in a room of like-minded women. It is the coolest thing. So thank you in advance for curating that for women. Like we need it, we thrive off of it, we grow, you make connections that you can have for a lifetime. And I think it's so important for our growth and our development to be in rooms like that. It's amazing.
Thank you.
I
Yeah, it
love
feels
it.
like a wedding, I was saying.
That's what we were talking about before we started. And no joke, the very first one that I threw in 2017, I literally welcomed everyone. I was like, y'all, this is my wedding. I'm probably not going to have another one. So this is me marrying myself. Thanks so much for
Yeah.
showing up.
Yeah,
Enjoy the
that's
open
right.
bar and the 3-course dinner and like all this crazy shit that I would have literally had at a wedding.
Yeah, amazing.
I love it so much. Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your story with us today. I'll put all of those links here in the show notes. And everyone go follow. Also, go listen to the Mystic Millionaire podcast and subscribe. And if you enjoyed the show today, please leave a review. And also, don't forget to go get your copy of Think It and leave an Amazon review for that. And thank you so much, Danielle, for everything.
Thank you. Thanks for
Thanks,
all that you do in the world.
thanks everybody. And until next time, get out there and thrive.